So, all right, are you ready for this?
Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready. So, Morgan, why don't we start off with you introducing yourself? Tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Morgan. I am a model and influencer from the Carolinas, and I now currently live in Los Angeles, California.
And you're a Libra.
I am a Libra.
And I'm a Libra. There we go.
Let's go, baby.
You're a September Libra, though, and I'm an October Libra. I don't know what that means. Somebody probably could tell us about our rising moons and suns and stuff like that, but I don't know that stuff that well. But so before we get started, the reason why we're here today is because Morgan is going to share her story for National Eating Disorder Awareness Week. So I want to give a warning for anybody who's watching that we'll be discussing eating disorders and body dysmorphia, so please be aware that we'll be discussing those subjects. So to begin, Morgan, why don't you talk a little bit about how you got into modeling and influencing and things like that in general?
So I was a bartender back in my hometown in the Carolinas, and I worked at a nightclub. And there was a bunch of local photographers that would come in and shoot all of the bottle girls because they did some modeling on the side. And one of them asked me, he was like, "Hey, do you want to shoot?" And I didn't really know anything about it. I was like, "Oh, cool, like free Instagram pictures and that'll look nice. Sure." And I did my first shoot with him, and I posted literally the next day after the shoot. I got edits back so quickly. And it really just blew up from there. And it was just like, boom. I was like shooting every single day, like 2 to 3 months later, I think I just had quit bartending. I was done and modeling full time. And then like less than a year later, I was like, let's move to LA and see how far this can go. And now I'm here.
Now, before you got into modeling and doing those photo shoots and things like that, had you dealt with an eating disorder before that, or body dysmorphia or anything along those lines?
I did. My first recollection of restricting was in second grade. It was the first time that a girl called me fat and told me I was ugly. And that was just my first instinct was like, oh, I'll just stop eating. And I don't want to be fat. Like I was in second grade. Like I didn't know how to process like bullying or anything like that. And, you know, she was the pretty girl and I just wanted to be like her. And off and on for years, I struggled with it a little bit. It wasn't really that bad. And then in high school, when I was an athlete, I think is when it really started to get bad because I was working out, I was getting really fit, but then there was also like boys. And you wanted to look cute, and like the standard for high school was, you know, to look a certain way, especially back home. And that's when that's when it really started to officially become an eating disorder. And then I got better. And then in college, I think when I didn't have my mom around and no one was forcing me to go to the dining hall. There wasn't like an adult around that was like, oh, like you don't look so hot, or is everything okay? I'm noticing these signs. You know, it's just, we were all freshmen in college. Like we were all trying to figure out how to be an adult for the first time by ourselves. And that is probably the first time it ever got semi-threatening.
And did you recognize it at the time, or I guess when did you realize that you had an eating disorder? Because you talked about it, you know, now seeing the signs from when you were in second grade, right? But when did you recognize that you were dealing with that?
I think I started to figure it out in high school a little bit that if I stopped eating, I would lose weight. Yeah. And I think at that age, you don't really process exactly what it is and what you're doing to yourself and how you got to that point, and it's not okay. It's, you know, you shouldn't have to feel like you have to do these things or lose control and restrict yourself or, you know, purge. And then I think in college is kind of when I was like, I don't have control. I can't stop. I don't know how to. And there wasn't really anyone there to be like, let me help you. Yeah. This is a problem. Let's help you get better. People were just like, oh, you're skinny. Like, you're so pretty now. That was like the big thing. So I thought it was a good thing. I thought it was fine. And I think that's when I kind of like internally was like, this doesn't feel right. I feel dizzy. I feel tired. I feel weak. I, am passing out. I'm purging so much that blood is coming up. But people are telling me that I'm pretty and that skinny is good and skinny is what I should be.
Do you think social media played a role in it at this time?
I would say not until I started modeling.
Okay.
I feel like social media has transformed a lot over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And it's progressively and rapidly gotten worse. But when I was in college, I wouldn't say that it was that big. I think it was just the environment of my campus.
Okay. So how long was the time period between when you were done with college and when you started to get into the photo shoots and modeling and everything like that?
Probably 2 to 3 years later.
Okay. So, and then you said shortly after that was when you moved out to LA.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happened, I guess, when you got out to LA?
I realized that there is a very different standard of beauty in Los Angeles, California than there is in the Carolinas.
Yeah.
Very, very, very different. And a different mentality and expectation, unrealistic expectations that are just not natural. And in my opinion, it seems that you almost feel like you have to be this certain way when you don't. You can be yourself. Everyone is uniquely beautiful in their own way. And everyone's bodies are not made to look exactly the same.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I recognized probably around the same time when I moved out to LA, and I would hear friends of mine who were getting into modeling, whether in LA or also in New York, and they would talk about, my agency said I need to lose, 5 pounds here or lose an inch here, and things where I'm looking at that person, I'm like, what are you talking about, And the expectations of the industry are crazy. And I feel like in some ways we've gotten better, but then at the same time, with the power of social media and the comments and the random messages that you receive on social media at times, it can be hurtful to a lot of people. Just some of the comments that can be made and things like that. So as you've gotten kind of a larger following on social media, how has that affected you?
In my opinion, I think that when I was I had a smaller following, it's easier to kind of get away with saying certain toxic things. And then now with the power of social media, people are afraid of being canceled and are not as likely to say things to you, but they still do. So for example, when I first moved to LA, I only had 50,000 followers. No one really knew who I was. I was just starting to make my footprint. And I had photographers literally message me and keep it there and say, I just don't shoot girls in your weight class. Oh, wow. And I was 130 pounds.
That's horrible.
Which is pretty standard for a 5'8" girl.
Yeah.
If I can't consider you for this, you just don't have that look. We look for the ribs. They're where are the ribs? I don't see them. It's just not normal.
Yeah.
And on the bright side, TikTok, I think lately I've seen a lot of girls, because Fashion Week is coming up, talking about, a couple years ago, I had an agency, I'm 6'2", and I was 115, and agencies were telling me I needed to be 100 pounds. And that's not normal.
Yeah.
And I think girls are kind of realizing that they have a voice and that they can say something, but I think there just needs to be a bigger discussion and almost calling people out for what they need to do and what they can't say. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard I was too fat, I was too ugly, I wasn't skinny enough, I needed to lose this much weight, my ribs needed to show, my thighs were too big. You are not the standard of beauty we're looking for. Those are wrong.
Yeah.
In my opinion, that's just wrong.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think we're starting to realize now the power of our words. And I think it's crazy to think about because it seems so obvious that we should be thinking about how our words affect other people. But I do think the benefit of conversations like this is that people start to realize that their words have a lot of weight and they affect people. And so speaking of people's words, so when you moved out to LA and people made those comments to you about not being in the right weight class or whatever, that's terrible. How did that affect you, and what exactly, I guess, did that cause to happen as a result?
Well, I think at first, or for me when I was struggling, you don't realize what you're doing to yourself and how it affects you. So my first initial instinct was just to be sad. Like, oh, why am I not good enough? Like, why am I not good enough for this? Why do I not look like these girls? Because you want to fit in, you want to get these gigs, you want to work for this agency, you want to work for this brand, you want to work with this photographer. And when they tell you you're not good enough or you're not pretty enough, I take that personally. I take that to heart. I want to try to be good enough. And so slowly it was just, okay, no, I'm not going to have dessert. And no, I'm just going to do this, or I'm not going to eat this, or I'm going to cut down my meals. I'm going to go into calorie deficient. But if you're not careful and you don't have people supporting you and watching you and looking out for the red flags, I personally took it way too far. I mean, I remember earlier this year, there was a week where I had half of a boiled egg the entire week. Because I was like, no, I'm going to be skinny. I'm going to be good enough. I'm going to make them notice me. And that's not okay. But I felt like I had to do that. I had to go to these extreme lengths just to get to work with someone or work for a brand or to be noticed or to grab someone's attention to fit in. And that's not right. I was perfectly good enough the way I looked before. I was still beautiful. You didn't need to see my ribs and have a scale that says, 100 pounds for me to get there.
Yeah.
And so people, I don't think, realize, like, you can say things, but you have to think about how it's going to affect other people. I personally quit eating. I mean, I'm still struggling to try to get back to a normal lifestyle and relationship with food. But for months this past year, if I had more than 500 calories in a day, I mean, I had like an anxiety attack. I was like, I can't do this. I'm not going to get there. And that's not okay. It's 3,000 calories is the standard that you should be eating every day, 2,000 to 3,000.
Yeah. Something along those lines.
And I was eating less than 500.
Yeah.
Like, that's not normal.
So
that's not okay.
You mentioned people's comments that are said to you and things like that. And I think certain times friends of ours, family members, people you date, whoever, people in the industry can make comments that are triggering that they might not necessarily mean to be triggering. What sort of comments would you say that you receive on a regular basis that can be triggering and people need to think about their words and what they're saying to you?
I think the most frustrating one, and the one I hear the most, is just go eat something. And it's not that easy. If you're struggling and you're struggling with food, the last thing you want to do is eat. Like you're afraid of the calories and I start to spiral. And from conversations I've had with other people that have struggled, it's the same thing. It's not that easy just to pick up a plate of food and eat it. Because it's how we feel afterwards. It's how we feel that we're not going to get there. And for me, I felt like if I had a burger, Red Robin burger, love Red Robin, free shout out. I felt so guilty because you bloat after you finish eating. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm fat. I just gained 5 pounds. The burger didn't even weigh 5 pounds. It's not possible. But in my head, I would just work myself up so much that it's just not that easy just to start eating back to normal. It's a gradual process. There's health risks inside. My stomach has shrunk. It doesn't hold as much food as an average human anymore, and I also think on the other side, the people are like, wow, you gained weight, you look good. In my opinion, when I hear those words, oh, you gained weight, you're fat, because that's the eating disorder talking. And you almost have to think about it in a way that is not normal, because the way my brain works with an eating disorder is not normal, because my relationship with food is so unhealthy. And it's really hard to navigate with someone with an eating disorder. I think that my friends, my family have all struggled because they want to see me get better, but it's really, really hard to talk to me about food sometimes. I don't like to eat in front of lots of people. I feel like people are staring at me. That's my eating disorder talking. I don't like to sit down and have a full plate of food. That makes me feel like I'm getting too fat. So I'm having to struggle with every single day adding a little bit more food than the day before. Like, it's a very long process. It requires a lot of patience. And you need to be very delicate, but also like communicating with someone with an eating disorder, what they need, what is a trigger for them. So for me, when people comment when I'm doing better and I am gaining weight and I am putting meat back on my body and my ribs aren't showing as much, I don't want to hear it. Like, I need to see that and do that on my own. That's like a big trigger for me. And so just kind of communicating with the person that you care about on what they need and how you can be there and play an active, supportive role in their life. But also on the flip side, like, I have to learn how to communicate with people. I'm like, hey, this really bothers me when you say this, and this isn't healthy for me to hear or be around. And I've had to have those conversations with my boyfriend and my family and my friends, and kind of educating, because they don't know. Everyone's very uniquely different in their eating disorder, and that's okay.
Yeah. And I think the ability to have those conversations is powerful, because I think a lot of times sometimes what we mean as a compliment can come across a completely different way to somebody else, right? Not even just in this situation, but any situation. And so, if there's something that somebody says that bothers you, it's important to have that conversation, because that's a learning experience for them and for you, right? And I think communication is incredibly important. It's obviously, you're incredibly strong to be able to have those conversations, because I know that can't be easy. So what advice would you give someone right now who may be battling an eating disorder, or family members who have somebody in their family that's dealing with something along those lines?
I think that the key thing to know when you have a family member talking or seeing someone that's struggling is that half the time when you're having these conversations, you're not talking to them, you're talking to the eating disorder. And so you have to be very, very, very gentle and let them speak first and just listen, because they're going to tell you why they feel this way. I don't feel skinny enough. I don't feel pretty enough. It could be something completely different. It could be a control thing. And so try to communicate as loving and as kindly as you can. Don't look at someone and tell them, you look terrible. Are you okay? Just say, hey, I just noticed some changes. Are you doing okay? You want to talk about anything? I'm always here. Just make it known that you're there. And when they come to you, don't judge and just listen. Think before you speak.
Yeah.
I've had to train my family on that.
Yeah.
I know they mean well, but think about what you're saying.
And what would you say to somebody who is the person then dealing with the eating disorder or body dysmorphia? Is there any steps that you would recommend to them to kind of get started with, battling back?
Start talking, whether it's to yourself, friends, family. Find someone that you trust to go to and to be supportive of you in this process, because it's a very long process of trying to get healthy and get better. It will take me a while to recover. But just start talking. For a long time, I wanted to say something and I just didn't feel like I could. And when I did, I realized that so many people were there. I just needed to reach out. People do care.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just slowly start talking. It makes it easier.
What would you say your relationship is with food right now and your body in general?
Every day is different. I think some days I have really good days. And I have days that aren't so good. You know, I'm working to have more good days than bad days. I am communicating with my loved ones about it often. And it's confusing because one day I can wake up and I could eat twice that day or 3 times. And then the absolute next day I could be like, oh, no. So it's getting better. It's day by day. But this time I'm really trying hard to help myself, because if I don't, it could be very dangerous.
When you have those hard days, are there certain steps that you take to kind of help yourself, I guess, just battle back yourself?
I think the thing I need to remind myself, and I constantly try, is that it's okay to eat. Like I need to eat. My body needs fuel to survive. No matter what my brain is telling me, like I'm going to gain weight or I'm going to be ugly or fat or whatever negative thing it's trying to tell me that day, I need to eat anyways. Eat something. That's like my thing. Even if I'm not having a good day, just put something in my body, because if I've learned that if I'm hungry, I'm really, really hungry, my body will just be like, no, let's have a little bit more. And I'm able to kind of slowly start to trick my brain. But I also have to learn how to rewire it, that I don't have to look a certain way for anybody but myself. And that is something I'm having to like work on. And I'm really trying to get better at, like, if someone doesn't think I'm good enough and I need to lose weight, then they can kiss my butt.
Yeah. Do you have any goals for yourself in this upcoming year? Just in your journey, anything that you'd like to see yourself do?
I would like to see myself at least an 80% healthy relationship with food. And I would really, really love to be able to eat a meal and not feel guilty about it. And that's my biggest struggle right now. But every day I'm working on trying to make it better.
So to wrap this up, can you tell us more about the organization that you're an ambassador for, ProjectHeal?
Oh, they are amazing. I reached out to them a couple months ago. Very interested in their organization and everything that they stand for. They believe in equal treatment for all and affordable treatment for all, and really recognizing that eating disorders are very big and a huge problem all around the world, you know, specifically America. I think the latest statistics were 20 million Americans struggle with eating disorders, and 80% can't or don't know how to get treatment or can't afford it. And so they work really, really, really hard to try to provide that, whether working with insurance companies and finding one that works for you, placing you in an affordable treatment program, or sponsoring your treatment to help you get better, and being willing to give you as many resources as you need for you, your loved ones, and educating yourself and them, and anything just to try to save and help people.
Yeah. I think that's, that's an awesome company. That's an awesome organization.
Amazing.
You mentioned it before, but just, talking about it is so important, because it helps lower the stigma, on eating disorders and body dysmorphia, because, I think they are incredibly prevalent, not just in this industry, but in general, all across the world, all across all different types of occupations, different ages, everything like that. I think a lot of people deal with issues along these lines, and a big part of it is communication and ability to have a conversation like this. And I'm proud of you for being able to discuss it, because I know it's not easy to talk about, and I'm sure at some point you weren't able to discuss it at all, and here you are today talking about it. And there's gonna be somebody who watches this that helps them along with their journey, and that's an important thing.
I just really, really hope that we can start changing what everyone views as a standard of beauty. You don't have to be skinny to be pretty. That's not, that they don't have a correlation. That doesn't make sense to me, especially in the modeling world. I feel like, in my opinion, there's just this standard that, oh, if you're a model, you don't eat. Why does that have to be like what people think? Why do models feel like they have to do certain things to work for certain people? You can be yourself. Everyone's like has their own unique look. Nobody looks exactly the same. And so I just want to start a conversation, get people talking, help anyone that feels like they're stuck in this pattern of harming themselves to achieve something that's unrealistic and not healthy. And I just really want to hopefully help just one person start a conversation. Maybe a family member will watch this and recognize some red flags or start looking closer at their loved one and know the correct way to talk to them or get advice or go to ProjectHeal and research something.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I definitely think there will be a lot of people who it helps to listen to a conversation like this. And even on the days that you're having a hard day, to just listen back and watch yourself talk, and see how you thought about it in this moment. And that's important to remind yourself, just how strong you are and how far you've come in this journey. So to wrap this up, is there anything else you'd like to add?
My name is Morgan. I am a model and an influencer, and I struggle with anorexia, bulimia, nervosa. And I don't want anyone to struggle in silence the way that I did. And I really, really just want to help people and help end the stigma of eating disorders. And if you have one, give you the resources to get better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think you definitely did that today. I think this conversation was a great conversation, and I look forward to seeing you keep kicking ass with your journey. And for anybody who's in their own journey, go to ProjectHeal, and together we'll get you through this.
Thank you, Mark.
Proud of you, Morgan. See you guys.